Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast. I'm JT. It's just me and Frank today. Maybe Jake will jump in and join us. Not sure yet. It is that kind of weird time of the year where vacations and everything are going on. So I'm just going to guess right into the episode. Frank, we did have Twitter. I don't know if you're on Twitter a lot recently, but we did have all the running backs in the NFL up in uproar. Because Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs did not reach agreements with their team, and Tony Pollard as well, I believe. But yeah, everyone's like, "Oh, us running backs aren't respected," blah blah blah. Like they need to value us better. So those two are currently tagged or three: Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard are all currently playing under the franchise tag. I believe Tony Pollard is expected to play under the franchise tag. Saquon and Josh Jacobs, time will tell, because it seems like currently they're threatening to hold out. I don't know, Frank, what your thoughts are on this. If you think we should be worried as for Dynasty / this 23 season.
I don't. It's a little early still for that, and there's like all this whole like leverage battle going on between the two sides. Man, I just think that the running backs are just not in a great spot, right? Like we've seen the numbers of the teams that pay the running backs versus the teams that don't, and the teams that win the Super Bowls and the teams that don't, and it's just frustrating, right? And if I'm the Falcons right now, like I love that I got a guy in Bijan at pick 8, but you have to think about the fact that only a handful of years down the line, you're probably setting yourself up for just a ticking time bomb of a contract situation. And it's not that the contract can't be worth it, right? Like you think the 49ers are upset that they paid Christian McCaffrey, but you have to be a contender, and that dude can't get hurt. And that's just kind of wishful thinking a lot more times than not when we're talking about the position that I'm pretty sure actually does get injured the most frequent rate of any position in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the Falcons they spent so much on that offense, but they don't have a quarterback. It's crazy. But yeah, with these running backs and the leverage, the problem too is the collective bargaining agreement. I don't think that's going to happen again until like 2030. So it's not like they really have any other way of
the problem is that their leverage is literally not playing. So your initial part of your question was, how concerned are you from a dynasty perspective? Listen, if I'm a contender, I am a little bit concerned. I don't want my stud running back potentially sitting out. And when you look at their options, it's that honestly might be the most logical thing for them to do is to be like, okay, well, if you don't want to give me the extra guaranteed money and the longer term deal, then go ahead, play your backup running back, and let's see how well your offense does.
Yeah, agreed. The problem is though, like, has it worked? Has it ever worked where the person holding out has gotten, like Melvin Gordon's the only one that I think held out, then eventually signed, played for a deal or whatever. But like thinking back to like Le'Veon Bell, for example.
Le'Veon Bell's holdout worked. He got more guaranteed money than
I guess. He missed the whole season.
Yeah, true.
He took off a whole season to get that more guaranteed money. You good?
Yeah, down the wrong pipe.
Yeah, I'll filibuster for you for a second. I just don't think like these guys are going to end up getting what they want. It's just the NFL has all the cards. They really don't have anything. And I mean, the Raiders, for example, right? They're not really, I wouldn't say they're a contending team. I mean, maybe Las Vegas personnel will say otherwise, but looking at that team, I don't know how you could justifiably say like this team is going to make a run in the playoffs. They're in like the toughest division and don't really have a whole lot going for them. Who knows if Jimmy G's even going to be healthy for the start of the season. So, I mean, in the case of Josh Jacobs, he's kind of, they're like, we don't even need you back. With Saquon, at least, all right, the Giants made the playoffs in large part due to Saquon with the offense. But the Giants have at least made the playoffs. They have a good team. They've built it up. They have good coaching staff. Like, this is a team that can theoretically compete. So maybe Saquon has more leverage there, and maybe Saquon is able to get something done. But I think in case of Josh Jacobs, that's just he's got like no leverage.
But it's going to be interesting to see. I am a little bit nervous. I have a contending team with Saquon and a contending team with Josh Jacobs, separate teams.
Yeah,
So
I feel like most dynasty teams that have those, either one of those two, they are considering themselves contenders. And if those guys are not playing, you're already starting off on the wrong foot before the 23 season kicks off. In other news, not the most exciting place for him to land, but DeAndre Hopkins has decided to sign with the Tennessee Titans. They kind of threw the bag at him. I don't know. Just quick thoughts, like right off the bat, unless this team changes their philosophy dramatically and are going from just a very heavy run first team to, maybe throwing the ball a lot more, I don't think it's great for D Hop. I mean, when you compare it to the Patriots, it's not like it's marginally worse, I would say. Like the Patriots, I don't think was going to be a much better spot for him. Obviously, the dream scenario of the big teams, I guess, was kind of out of play once DeAndre Hopkins decided to go for the money. But yeah, I think we'll get into the AFC South. That's kind of part in why we decided to do the AFC South breakdown this week, because DeAndre Hopkins signed with this team. But I don't know, just don't feel great about the landing spot. I don't think it's going to really help.
I think it's pretty decent. I think I agree with you in terms of if you want D Hop to be a 1,400-yard receiver.
Oh yeah,
that's probably gone by the wayside. But I feel pretty darn confident in Ryan Tannehill being a good quarterback, and I actually think that D Hop can fit that offense pretty well with what the Titans generally want to do. D Hop has always been really great with the ball in his hands. It still seems like he can separate for a guy that's his age, and I guess part of it is he's lanky
never really
too.
Yeah, and he also never really won with the separation. He was a lot more of the
No, he 100% did, but a lot of it is that his length, like his body length and his arm length, is just he's so fucking long that creates the separation in and of itself. But this dude's got really good fucking feet. He can route people up.
Yeah, but he was consistently in the top of like contested catches, like catches that were, or targets that were contested. Like he wasn't, separation wasn't ever D Hop's like thing when you thought of like players that. In fact, I'd say he was typically near the bottom of the league in terms of separation. No. Yeah, look at the metrics. I'll pull up the metrics right now.
Maybe in
You're
terms
gonna make
of
me stat you here.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that's not going to show up in the stat and this is, I think, something similar with Brandon Ayuk, right? If you look at his wingspan, this dude is so fucking long that he doesn't need 7 yards of separation like a 5'9" receiver is going to need that 7 yards of separation, right? D-Hop can have a guy, he can beat him by less than half a yard, and because he's so fucking long and his hands are so nasty, he's just that slight contested means nothing. It's easy money.
Sure. Okay, if you're saying it like that,
and
but
like when you look at what Corey Davis did and what AJ Brown did on these curls and these ins off play action, I think that can really suit D Hop's game.
Yeah. Now, look, there is a lot going for D Hop. I'm trying to pull it. Doesn't matter. It's a separation. I'm trying to pull. Never mind. But there is a lot going for D Hop because, like you were kind of saying before, I don't think Tannehill is washed. I think a lot of people have kind of written off Tannehill. Meanwhile, you look at his receivers with getting rid of AJ Brown. It was kind of just an injured Treylon Burks and then a pile of nothing. I will say this is pretty bad news for Treylon Burks because this is not a very pass-friendly team. Now you have D-Hop in there who will almost certainly be the target hog there. He'll be leading the team in targets. So bad news for Treylon if you're expecting a second-year breakout. It's still possible, but definitely a lot less probable now. The other thing, Chiga Okonkwo, I don't know if I say it. I always say his name.
Yeah, Chigoziem Okonkwo.
Yeah,
I think he's more cooked than Treylon is.
Yeah, he's dead.
So fine, to be honest with you.
Chig is dead. I don't know about Treylon.
Because I think, to me personally, this goes from Traylon potentially being one of those 140 target guys to now almost certainly being in that 100 to 120 kind of range, somewhere around there. But nonetheless, this offense kind of runs on efficiency. The years that we saw them be that AFC championship team off the back of Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill playing very well, they were just efficient, long drives ending in touchdowns. If that happens again, I don't really mind the fact that Traylon's only getting, let's say he gets 120 targets compared to Deontay Johnson's 165. If those on those 120, he's just getting nice long catches with high probability of scoring.
Yeah. The problem with that, though, is he only had 54 targets last year. Now, he did play in 11 games. I'm just not sure he even breaks 100. Like, I think he'll be right around that 100 mark on targets, which is...
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess great. I'm more bullish on Traylon than you are then.
Yeah, I mean, I like him a lot. Look, I'm not writing him off as dead yet, but I am much more skeptical now than I was just a week ago, maybe.
I'm still like, I don't really care as much, just because once again, like I was saying in the previous podcast, I feel like what I'm seeing out of Traylon this offseason is just this is the player that I felt like I saw at Arkansas, the dude who's confident as fuck, who's he's a big dude, but he's fast. Yeah. I feel like he wasn't consistently fast last year. Like, he shows up against the Packers, right? That first half against the Packers, he looks great. But then the next week, it looks like he's kind of right? Like, it just didn't feel like he settled into the league last year. Whereas right now, everything that we've heard and seen from the Titans is like, holy shit, Treylon Burks is like the dude now. And I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm taking the bait here, but I honestly like the D-Hop signing because long term, I think it helps Treylon not have to be the guy this year and the Titans completely sucking ass, right? Because I don't think that actually helps anything when, like, oh, you're the dude, yeah, but your team completely fucking sucks. Like, just get fall in that 100 to 120 target mark, have just under 1,000 yards, and your career trajectory is perfect, right? Like, that's fine.
Okay, fair.
Like, and as a Treylon holder, you would be completely happy with that type of season, right? Borderline wide receiver 2 type season, and things are looking up, right?
All right. I mean, with all that Treylon talk, though, we can just move.
I can't believe you're not higher. I feel like you're a Treylon guy, right? Like, the price is starting to go down a little bit. If I were you, I would be smashing the buy right now, potentially. It does depend on the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see how low his value does go in Dynasty. But, like,
who are they playing week 1? Do they have a rough week 1 matchup?
I'll pull it up for you.
Because I will say, looking at what happened with Devontae Smith last year, and every single year, the week 1 overreactions are crazy.
Yeah.
This year, I might actually try to profit off of it, because I've always just been like, literally like first 3-4 weeks of the season, I don't give a shit
about Saints.
Anything.
They have the Saints week 1.
I mean, the Saints defense was nice. I like their head coach is their former DC, who I like, Allen. But I don't know, dude. The Saints are a fucking weird team.
That's an interesting game to start week.
I feel like Derek Carr low-key has like a little curse on him. I feel like that Saints defense is going to be trash now that Derek Carr is there.
Where is Treylon Burks going currently? Where is Treylon Burks? Let me see if I control F him here.
605.
Okay, that's so.
But I think realistically, his price is in line with Zay Flowers and Jahan Dotson right now, and these other guys.
I'd still rather have him over those two. So that is okay. He's in a spot where I'm still okay, like at the price tag he's at.
But like, if there's a week, because he's a volatile player, right? The first couple weeks of the season, he could have a Gabe Davis type of plummet if he's not getting the workload that people were expecting.
Okay,
And that could be a time to strike.
now that I'm seeing what he's around, who he's around, I'm still in on Traylon because it's because I think where he is currently priced and where I think he'll fall to, I think it's baked in that he's not going to be that alpha number one guy right off the bat. And it's also appearing that people expect the Titans not to pass a whole lot. So anything else that happens contrary to that, like if the Titans do decide to pass more, or if Traylon actually is like the top guy on the Titans, like all of a sudden he's smashing expectations and he'd go up. So I think where he is fine.
For trades, probably the most realistic option to get into Traylon that I would recommend would probably be something along the lines of like Keenan Allen or Mike Evans plus to get into a Traylon, or if the guy likes him, like a Mingo plus or Tony plus, or even like just swapping in somehow.
So when did the D Hop news drop? That was on Sunday, Saturday.
It was pretty recent. I don't know exactly when.
So let me get let's say the 16th, I think. So trades with Traylon after the 16th that we're looking at. Traylon for Deontay straight up. Trying to get some smaller trades. Traylon in a third for a 2024 first. Traylon for DeAndre Swift straight up. Traylon for Cam Akers straight up.
I really like getting rid of those running backs for Traylon.
Traylon in a first in 2024 for DK and a second in 2023. Traylon for 25 first. Traylon in a first in 2024 for DK and a second in 2023.
Yeah, it's like the Judy trade that we saw with
DK. Yeah, and then Traylon for a 2025 first and Traylon for Dotson in a 2025 third. Those are the most comparable 1-for-1 or 1-for-2 kind of deals. Traylon for a 2024 first.
Yeah, I think generally speaking, like those running back deals were good. The rest of the trades probably just pretty fair, all things considered.
Yeah, I would buy into Traylon at that price. Okay, so now do you want to move to our random segment of the week? Okay.
I don't know. I just kind of came up with this randomly, and I thought it could be interesting. So maybe we'll do another variation of this. My idea was thinking like, okay, if I was in a startup draft and I employed this type of strategy with all of my high-end picks, I just traded them for future picks. And then with all the back-end picks, instead of tanking, you tried to make a contending build of just trash and seeing if you could win. So you have
so you're saying like you're trading your pick 108 in a startup for like 3 firsts or something like that.
Yeah, well, you would probably do so that trade. You would probably do 2 firsts, 2 seconds for one of the teams in the startup to get another first round pick. That's generally speaking like that's actually a pretty good deal for the person trading the first and the seconds more times than not, right? You could pick up like honestly at 108, I would pick Kyler Murray, right? Like I get Kyler Murray or whatever elite quarterback for 2 firsts, 2 seconds. That's like the going rate for an elite quarterback, right? Fuck it, I'll do that. So
but yeah, Kyler Murray's going in the third of startups. He's not even going.
Yeah, but I don't give a fuck. I don't care. It's Kyler Murray.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I agree. But he's going in the third. Okay.
But yeah, I thought that would be an interesting idea, right?
So how we want to break this out, display it?
Well, so realistically, if you were actually doing that, the market wouldn't be super liquid, so you would have to pick in some spots, and B, you would probably want to get some other back end picks. But how I wanted to do it is that from just round 10 and on, we go and we make a build with a pick in each round. So I have players from round 10 to round 25 that I have making out the gist of a roster. And yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty dog shit, but it'd be interesting to try and compete with this team.
So are we going to go round by round then?
Yeah, we can go round by round. Here,
Okay.
let me get
the bulletproof.
let me get
up
the
on
round on the screen. Actually,
Yeah, okay.
that's probably a prudent idea. How do I do this? Window 1, yes. Shnikes.
Shnikes.
All right, here we go. So I've got. Oh, is that not visible? I don't know. It's like barely visible, I guess.
I'm on the YouTube right now. It looks fine.
All right. Well, here's all the players. I'll start at the top as round 10, and here's like all the players you would realistically choose between.
I'm having second thoughts about my round 10 already.
Well, who did you go with?
You're not gonna like it. I went with Sam Howell.
Ooh.
Dude is a starting quarterback for the Commanders. I think we're doing it, so we're building a super flex team too, right? So
yeah, it's a super flex team.
How I had it set up was quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and a super flex. That's what I had to take, and then just another 4 extra flex spots. That could have been anything but quarterback, obviously. So Sam Howell's where I went there. I was kind of second guessing it, but I do think this guy, I'm not really a believer in Jacoby Brissett. I think Ron Rivera might be on the hot seat looking to save his job here. Sam Howell was great at North Carolina in his first couple of years, then kind of had a down year in his third year. But I think the way that Sam Howell plays, I think he can have some rushing upside, nothing crazy like a Jalen Hurts or Justin Fields or anything like that. But I think he can get you points on the ground. He actually has a good team built around him. I also don't really love most of the quarterbacks later on. So that's why I tried to snag Sam Howell early.
What's interesting about this is that in a dynasty draft, right, if you're looking at a multiple year outlook, Sam Howell, like the upside is pretty tremendous. So I like the pick in that regard. If you're trying to win, I don't, because I think that there's multiple quarterbacks later that are better values. But it's an interesting pick, right? If you go with this kind of build and he does pan out, he will probably be just as contending viable as a Tannehill, maybe slightly below it. Could be slightly above it, right? Like,
yeah. Well, the problem I had, and we'll get to some of these other rounds later, is with the other quarterbacks, I wasn't sure how much playing time I'm actually getting. So that's where I was a little bit like, let me just shore up this guy right now. I feel pretty good about him being a starter. Sorry, Jacoby. But like Matthew Stafford, for example, right? Like, I'm not sure about his health, his back, what the deal is there.
Right.
Some of these other quarterbacks, I'm not even sure if they're going to be the starter. So that's where I went with Sam Howell.
So I put down Alvin Kamara, but I just generally speaking would want to take one of AJ Dillon, Alvin Kamara, or David Montgomery. Just looking at the rest of the draft, I feel like picking up. So I picked up Alvin Kamara because he's the only dude on the board that's had a track record of even sniffing an RB1 season, other than James Conner, I think, right? Everyone else is like down the ladder. So I decided to go with my build as like a contender kind of build. Just fuck the future. We are winning it this year. So to be my RB1, I picked up Kamara.
Yeah, Kamara is one that I was considering. I wasn't really considering AJ Dillon or David Montgomery. The only other one that I was considering in this 10th round, though, was David Njoku. If I was going to go with tight end early, but I just feel like there's so many tight ends, and
so I was initially going into this planning on taking either Mike Williams or Mike Evans, just because I think that those are two guys that if they're playing, I can just plug and play them. But after looking at the board, the running backs get really thin really quickly.
Yeah.
So I switched it to a running back in round 10.
If we want to segue here, then my next two picks are running backs. So in round 11, I went with Antonio Gibson. He was a 1,000-yard rusher in the past, does have receiving upside, has been getting camp hype already. Like, this is the year he's going to put it all together. Do I believe that? Probably not. But I just think he's super cheap for what he can potentially do. James Conner's always there, but he's getting older. Yeah, I was going pretty commander heavy off rip. So yeah, it'd be nice to get those Sam Howell to Antonio Gibson goal line passing touchdowns. Yeah, that's where I went. Where'd you go for round 11?
I went with Matt Stafford. Once again, I think that he's easily the best quarterback on the board. So if this injury stuff is not a factor, then I could be potentially getting like a QB1 for a couple seasons.
That's true. It's just, how bad is his back or neck or whatever the heck is his issue that they're not really too upfront about. Round 12, I went running back again. Filling out my board here. I went with Khalil Herbert.
I was thinking of going Khalil Herbert, but I decided to actually forego round 12 and dip into round 13 to pick up Brandon Cooks.
Okay, I considered Brandon Cooks. I didn't pull the trigger on Brandon Cooks with my round 13 pick. But yeah, running back, real quick with Khalil Herbert, I just think he does have a chance to be the top dog there. And he's pretty cheap. So we've seen him do it when David Montgomery was out and he was able to put up a bunch of points. So maybe he'll be able to do it again. But I do like going Brandon Cooks with the 13th. My round 13 pick was a different wide receiver. It was Michael Thomas.
I have him as well.
Yeah. Okay. You doubled down. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it just feels like you have to go Michael Thomas here if you're looking to be a contender. Like, you just have to bank that he's not going to be injured for a third straight year.
Right. When I looked at this, with how I made my team, and I like you can kind of tell my picks, right? Kamara, Stafford, Michael Thomas, even kind of Brandon Cooks. I was looking for players that have proven that they're elite, and I'm just hoping that they can kind of do it again, and I'm just getting them at a discount.
All right, so then I think you're going to align with where I'm going to align for probably the rest of these picks, maybe a couple that stray. But around 14, I went with Ryan Tannehill.
Same here.
Yeah, okay. And makes sense.
That price might not be completely realistic now with the D-Hop signing. There might be more confidence in Tannehill, but the Will Levis pick is always going to be a little weird. I think that Will Levis doesn't see the field this season, to be honest with you, unless there's like a last game sort of a thing. Or the Titans really suck. I don't think that this Titans team is going to be as complete trash as some may think. It's a Vrabel team. They're going to figure it out. They're going to be a scrappy team. They're going to get some wins where you don't expect them to. And I think that Tannehill sees like basically the entire year.
Yep, fully agree. Round 15, I think we're going to be on the same page here too. OBJ.
I picked up, OBJ. That I might actually want to switch it to OBJ. I went with Donta Foreman because yeah, this could easily be a throw pick. This is the high risk, high reward pick for me in the draft, where I was looking at the board, and to me, outside of picking up a Michael Thomas in route 13, or maybe even an OBJ where I'm making the mistake, is the running backs. I think that if you were able to find the running back that in that round 16, 17, 18 that ends up producing at like a high level RB2, which has happened many times, right? Leonard Fournette was already that, and he could do it again if he signs somewhere, right? Jerick McKinnon at the end of last year, I mean, there's plenty of examples of that late round running back that completely makes a difference. I think for this build to be viable and the situation to work, you have to find that. So maybe it's down to Foreman.
Okay. Yeah. I just am not a believer in his talent compared to the rest of the players, but I did go with that strategy for the 16th round where I picked Zeke.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking Zeke. I decided to go Tyler Boyd just to get a
Get the receiver.
surefire
Yeah.
receiver points. I kind of got my high end guys and Brandon Cooks and Michael Thomas. Just need to fill it out with flex players.
Um, then looking at the 17th, I believe I have four went. I don't know what the right word is. I skipped the 17th round. Did you pick anyone there?
I picked up Jerick McKinnon.
Oh, you did go with McKinnon.
Yeah, I decided to pick up McKinnon. I was thinking about picking up Stetson Bennett to back up Stafford, but I scratched that and went with McKinnon. With a similar reasoning with Donta Foreman, it's like the only two guys that I think are on the board, other than maybe Zeke, like you picked up, or Devin Singletary, that have a realistic chance of being the top fantasy output on their team without injury. Right? Like they can show up and they actually just earn the role.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because we kind of saw that with McKinnon in the passing game. Like, not that I think he's going to be this insane, like, super RB1, but if he's able to get that passing game work, man, and just give me those four receptions, 3 receptions a game with a handful of carries, it's all I need.
This is where I think I big brained it, though, in round 18. Now, look, he hasn't put it all together yet, but I'm still a sucker for him. I went with Noah Fant. And you'll see my strategy in a second why I went with Noah Fant. But essentially, I need him to be better in the beginning half of the year. That's kind of more what I'm banking on. And it is his second year in the system. I don't think JSN is going to be ramped up right away. So I'm not too concerned about his targets. Tyler Lockett's getting older. I still think this is a pretty good team in terms of their offense, like what they're going to be able to do. It kind of just depends on if Gino's able to conjure up that magic again. But I think for tight end, I'm really just looking for a few good weeks out of Noah Fant in the beginning of the year.
Well, I will say, I think Noah Fant might honestly be one of the best investments right now for lower tier teams. We should honestly look into making a trade for him in our rebuild league.
Okay.
Because I kind of agree with you in that it is in Noah Fant's trajectory to kind of age similar to that of an Njoku or
Exactly.
one of those types of players. He's younger than you think. He actually hasn't really played poorly. He had a decent year last year. That Seattle team just uses their tight ends so weird. His contract is coming up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that Noah Fant 18th round, 17th round as an investment, insane. I'm just not sure you're getting many points from him this year again. Like, I just don't think he's consistently startable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just need him pop for a couple weeks in the beginning.
Yeah. I decided to go skip 18 and go with Curtis Samuel at 19. He's in the beginning of the 19th round. The budget Debo Samuel.
Yeah, a commander. So you're hopping on the commander train as well with me.
Yeah, he's not insane, but he's always a good player for a contender to have. And I was able to pick him up actually as my 4th wide receiver, which is kind of exactly where you want him, which I was pretty happy about.
At this point, I only have 2 wide receivers so far through the first 18, and I guess now 19 through the 19th round.
Part of my strategy is that I went super budget on tight end. I waited until round 23 to pick up a tight end.
Oh, okay. All right, real quick before we get to round 23. Wow, wait till round 23. Round 19, where I went was a person that you mentioned earlier, Leonard Fournette.
Same here.
Yeah. Oh, so you went too. Okay. So you got the double. Yeah. Because I just think he's going to end up on a team. Now, where that is, when I know he was just visiting with the Patriots, I just think like he does have that opportunity to force himself into the starting role, be the main guy, kind of like in a LeGarrette Blount sense, where it's just like he is a journeyman, but he is able to get all those carries. He is the guy that's scoring you the touchdowns. And at the 19th round, I liked it. Kareem Hunt was another thought as well, but I just don't. He doesn't do what Leonard Fournette does in terms of workhorse.
Yeah. You also have to remember that Leonard Fournette, his talent level is on a different level than these other dudes around
Yeah.
here. So there is that aspect of it where, kind of like Adrian Peterson, kind of like Frank Gore almost, right? So these dudes can sometimes just stick around like a sore thumb, and they're able to get workloads in wacky situations.
hmm
In the 19th round, you almost have to bet on that when you're doing this kind of build with a guy like Leonard Fournette. The fact that he could give you an RB1 season and you
hmm
pick him up for fucking peanuts.
Now moving into the 20th round, I think I know where you're going here. Where I went here was picking up Keontae Ingram.
I
Because
hated this round, dude.
did you go Sam Darnold?
I was thinking about it. The problem is, I just don't think I have the luxury of picking up Darnold. I went with Pierre Strong with potential. Like,
Really?
maybe I would have went Gus Edwards. Once again, Pierre Strong, I'm almost swinging for the fences there, where I just think like he's inconsistent, but he's talented. I don't know. Why'd you go with Keontae?
Because I think James Conner's just constantly injured, but never out like long enough for Keontae Ingram to matter. I just think this year, with how the Cardinals are currently situated, where your quarterback's Colt McCoy, this team doesn't really have a whole lot going for it in terms of offense in the beginning of the year. I think Keontae Ingram's going to get a crack at that starting running back role. He is pretty athletic as well. I think he's a good price here in the 20th round, where if James Conner ever were to go down, Keontae's got that starting role locked up. So I just went with contingent upside here, which I guess you could make the argument for Sam Darnold as well, but I already got my two quarterbacks.
Yeah, you're making me think about actually switching that to Keontae Ingram, but I'll keep it for now. So the one thing I have against the Cardinals right now is that I think you can make an argument that the Cardinals are going to have the worst offensive line and kind of just offense in general without Kyler. Like, I do not think that they are going to be a good team running the football. Now, the problem is that probably just applies more to James Conner than it does for Keontae, because Keontae, you're picking up in the 20th round. Like, if you're picking up a guy who just touches the ball consistently, it doesn't matter what their offensive quality is in the 20th. So that's why I'm rethinking it. Round 21, I went with Brissett. I'm just a Brissett truther.
Yeah, this is where it stops.
The guy getting the starting job.
I doubled down in the 21st round, I believe. Or no, did I? The 20th. Hold on. Trying to find my players here. Oh no, okay. I went with I skipped my 17th rounder. And instead I went with these two guys to wrap up my team. I went with Zach Ertz in the 21st round, I think he is. Where is Zach Ertz? 22nd round?
He's
21st round. 21st round, Zach Ertz. I went with Zach Ertz because he is going to be injured to start the season. So that's where my big brain came in. I was like, all right, I'll get Noah Fant, get his points early. Then I think Zach Ertz will be coming back. Tyler will be coming back. Maybe his offense can put something together in the second half of the season. So I went Zach Ertz there. And then I just kind of took my swing for the fences pick in Parker Washington. I needed another receiver. I really liked him out of Penn State. I think in the 22nd round is very cheap. I'm not that big of a believer in Zay Jones. And then you also have the likes of Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk there, who I think are both good, but I don't know what to expect with Calvin Ridley after having a year plus off. I think Parker Washington can push his way onto the field. So that was kind of just my swing for the fence pick there.
So, all right, I'll wrap up the rest of my draft. 22nd round, I went for Darius Slayton, the Giants receiver. Reasoning behind it being, I think that he's the only dude on the board that has a even possibility of being the number one target on their receiving core. Well, I don't think it will be Darius Slayton. I do think he has the potential to at least fight for it. Round 23, I think, is pick of the draft with Taysom Hill.
Oh, you went Taysom. When you said tight end, I didn't know who you were going.
If you were doing a budget contending team, I think the first player I would buy is Taysom Hill to put in my tight end spot, because I went back to back Taysom Hill, Hunter Henry, and while I might be towards the bottom of the league in tight end play, right? Like I don't think Taysom Hill is going to come out here and have a tight end one season. I do think that Taysom Hill could finish like tight end 10 on the year and have a couple weeks where he pops off. So to be able to completely neglect tight end and still have a guy that I think can finish somewhere between tight end 10, tight end 12, I think is pretty tremendous.
They're high on Taysom Hill.
Dude, he gets the ball. He gets the ball. Like, yeah, it's not sexy. Yeah, it's not consistent. But think about every other tight end. Like, what other motherfucker is getting wildcat snaps and is being used as a receiver and a runner, most of the touches in the red zone, right? Like, give me that shit.
Yeah, I just think you're going to get some wildly inconsistent. Like, there's going to be weeks where you're getting 0 from your tight end spot.
Right, but realistically, how different is that going to be compared to betting on someone like Cole Kmet or Trey McBride?
Oh, okay. You're not going to get me out here.
I mean, I think Gerald
going
Everett's
out on
a
the
good
stump
pickup.
for,
but like even fucking Mike Gesicki, I think Mike Gesicki could easily put up zeros in a week.
Yeah,
Juwan
look, you're
Johnson,
not.
Forget about it.
You're not getting me to go die on a hill for any of those guys. Like, I'm not. I think all those guys might give you zeros as well. But I think if you're going Taysom Hill, now granted he is in the 23rd round or whatever, so it's
I'm in the same boat as everyone else. I'm just picking him up in the 23rd.
Yeah. Like I think realistically, Parker Washington's probably going to give me a lot of zeros to start off. But it's just kind of that swing for the fence where maybe Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, one of them gets hurt. I got Parker Washington. I don't know. Looking at that, I might want to reconstruct where.
Yeah, then the 25th, I picked up Devontae Parker because if Bill Belichick believes in him, I will too.
I do not understand that. I sent it a few weeks ago, whenever it was, when the Patriots were seriously in talks of getting DeAndre Hopkins. You get the sleeper alert or whatever, ESPN alert. Oh, Patriots just signed wide receiver, and it's Devontae Parker to a 3-year extension. And that was such a heart drop moment where it's like, oh, we stink. We are so bad. I don't understand why they felt the need to pay him when they did. It's not like Devontae Parker was going anywhere else. It's just, I hate it. I hate it a lot. That was enough Patriot ranting.
I'm trying to see my full-on team and see how it would look. So it'd be.
Oh yeah, I wrote mine out in terms of positions. I don't think you could see it.
It would be Stafford at QB, Kamara, and I think I would start McKinnon out of the gate, but I'd have Foreman, Fournette, just kind of in the mix, and then Pierre Strong as a backup. My running backs are so weak, and then wide receiver Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, Tyler Boyd, and then Curtis Samuel would be in my flex. Taysom Hill tight end, Tannehill super flex.
It's actually not bad.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but my running back situation is so crap, right? Like,
yeah,
if Kamara gets suspended, I would be completely cooked.
My receiver situation is rough. So my team would look at Sam Howell and Tannehill would be my quarterbacks. Then I've got Antonio Gibson and Khalil Herbert as the starting 2, but then Zeke, Leonard Fournette, and Keontae Ingram would be the backup ones. Wide receiver, it's not pretty. It's Michael Thomas, OBJ. I mean, if it was like 5 years ago, that would be sick. Michael Thomas, OBJ, and Parker Washington are the only wide receivers I took this entire thing. And then Noah Fant and Zach Ertz were my tight ends. All right, Frank's MIA, but I am going to then transition us over from these teams.
No, don't worry. I'm still here, JT.
Okay. Hello, Frank.
Real quick.
Yep.
How viable do you think that startup strat would be, though? Like, okay.
I mean, you're not winning the championship with that team.
No, you're not. But imagine you have, because like I don't think you would trade all pick 1 through pick 9 for all future, right? You could get extra picks and things to bolster your roster a little bit.
The problem is, though, what are you doing with the first? Well, like, what are you doing with your first in the following year? So, like, what are you doing with your 2024 first round pick?
I
Because
think
if
I'm
you're
just
looking to contend,
I think I'm just picking. I'll just hold it and I'll see where it ends up in the draft.
okay, so it's kind of like counter, like you're not tanking because you're contending, so it's not going to be. I don't know. That's just a weird spot for me. But
Yeah, it's a
theoretically, you would
weird
have a bunch of
scenario,
firsts.
but yeah, I guess the thing that's weird is you're losing out on such a great value creating mechanism in losing games and getting one of the top draft picks. That's almost like a guarantee. It is the easiest way to gain value in Dynasty is to make your
Hmm.
team shitty and get the number 1 pick in a rookie draft because
Hmm.
you're almost guaranteed to get a top 24, top 25 Dynasty asset out of that, if not
I
higher.
mean, in the case of Bijan, it's top 11.
Well, yeah, right. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
if you roll a T Law, a Bijan, you're gonna be pretty freaking juiced, right? And you're gonna be pretty happy
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah, you would have so much flexibility though, assuming that you did move off most of your early picks, that you could just pluck players from teams that thought they would be contenders that are now sellers by the deadline, kind of stuff like that too. Um, you have a lot of, you could do basically anything with that team if you trade all the way alive your
Right. I'm
early
just
round
thinking
pick.
like if you trade your first, you pick up 2 firsts, 2 seconds. You trade your second, you pick up. Okay, let's just assume, and this might be a pretty big undersell. For your second, your third, and your fourth, you all trade them for a first and a second. So you've picked up 5 firsts and no, you pick
5
up
seconds.
6 firsts.
First, second, wait. So you're trading your
2,
first 4
3,
picks?
4, 5. Yeah, 5 firsts, 5 firsts, and like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's just for your 1 through 4 picks
Mhm.
so far.
Mhm.
Let's say pick 5, 6, 7. You just trade for first straight up. And then pick 8.
Round 7 is where it gets fringy on if those players are going to be. Actually, round 6 might be where it starts to get fringy on if those are first round players.
No, I think round 7 still first round players. You have, I like,
Think
I don't
so?
know. I think that you could because
Geno Smith isn't getting traded for a first, I don't think. Jordan Love.
yeah, but I think Trey Lance, Terry McLaurin, Chris Godwin, Dalton Kincaid, Zay Flowers, Jahan Dotson are all players that you can trade for a first pretty consistently, or at least
Okay,
a first.
and I guess in startups too, people are like, "Oh, this is going to be elite first." Okay,
I think you could get it done. Maybe it depends on where your 7th is, but let's just pretend you can for right now. Because like Deontay's in the 8th, I think he's another guy that you could. Okay, maybe you have to give a third as well, but you're
okay,
close to a
yeah.
first.
So you're able to pick up then like eight firsts,
So we had 8
in
firsts, we
5
lost
seconds.
the third, 5 seconds, and then
And
we
a
still
negative
have
third.
we still have round 8 and 9 now to play with.
Yeah,
So let's
those
just
are
keep
like
those now. Let's keep those. Who are we adding to the team?
round
We
8.
need
I want
running
Deontay.
backs.
You
Okay,
need running
round
backs.
8
I
we
don't
had
need running backs.
Deontay,
Or D Hop. Either of those would be. I think I'd go Deontay.
and then give me do we go Aaron
Dalvin Cook?
Jones or Dalvin Cook?
Oh, both Aaron Jones would be good there too.
I'll go Aaron Jones because I need Aaron Jones. I need a running
Right.
back desperately. Or if I went Mixon and Aaron Jones, that could be pretty fuego.
That is a
You know what? That's what I'm doing. I'm going Mixon and Jones.
that's a playoff team. I think pushing for a playoff team. I mean, it just depends. The issue is that we just gave up like 6-7 rounds of play. Like we just gave up 7 top 100 players.
Yeah. No, yeah, we
Now
definitely
we're
did.
going elsewhere, which is making it tough for us to compete.
But now how I look at it is that we've traded, like we have a lineup of No, not just a lineup. We have almost a team now that we have acquired of first and second rounders that if we just held to maturity those draft picks, we could literally within 2 years have drafted a completely new team.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
that's why I think it's interesting where it's like you could still compete. Like you don't have to tank. You could still compete.
My
But
problem,
you're
and it's
almost
my
setting yourself up for a tank the next year.
yeah, my problem, and it's definitely my problem, is I just get too impatient. I'd be sitting on these picks like I have 8 first rounders, I have 6 second rounders. Like I could just move these in for anyone. Like, um, yeah, I that would be my issue. But it's an interesting strat that I'd like to see actually come to fruition.
I think it would just be a fun build. I think it would be a fun build. It's probably worse than just doing a productive struggle, but
Yeah, that is the issue, because it is just where the productive struggle, it's you're picking up your picks and then you're just going for that tank. We're not going for that tank. So it's just we're not getting the 101,
I mean, dude,
201, 301.
people on Reddit hate on the tank so much, and I don't understand why, because I've seen now in almost like probably a third of my leagues, there's been a guy that heavy tanked for 2 seasons and then has like a fucking monster right now. Like
Yeah.
prime for a championship. And it's like, I don't understand. Like, everyone memes people for trading players for draft picks. It's like, dude, and listen, I think sometimes you might fuck it up, but like, I think you're the one who convinced me of this. If you're a meddling team, like, you got to fuck shit up because, you know,
Yeah, if
you're
you're
just going
stuck,
to be a meddler.
that's that's where my team's been in our home league for like forever now. And it's just I keep blowing it up to try and like get better. And now I feel like I am in a spot where if my players are healthy, I am like a pretty competitive team. But it's just if you're stuck in the middle, that means you're getting the middle first round picks. That means you're getting you're going from a first round startup guy or maybe a second round startup guy, depending on the draft here, to now if you're in the middle, you're getting like a 5th round startup guy. Like you're going from getting a Bijan to getting Jordan Addison, and it's just like, yeah, your team was competitive. You won some games, you lost some games. It was close. Like you made it to the playoffs a couple of years. You just missed a couple of years, but that's not the point of fantasy football. The point of fantasy football is to win the whole league, right? So it's even if you're doing this from like an investment thing or whatever, like making the playoffs every year is maybe breaking even, depending on what your payout is. Like, what's the point?
Well, I mean, also from like a game theory point of view, unless you're kind of hitting your draft picks. I don't really know because I don't think the value right now of someone like a Quentin Johnston or Jordan Addison is actually all that bad. I'm not sure that they're.
No, it's not. But I mean, compare that to Bijan, where Bijan you could trade
right.
for like Jamar Chase.
And that's kind of the difference, right? Is that if you just kind of went full tank, like that value you've created because you're ending up in the same spot no matter what in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could just create value, and like you could even just trade down into these middling receivers, right? Like and create value that way now, and open up so many doors.
Yeah, I think you have to trade at least a first on top of Quinn Johnston to get Bijan Robinson. Just it's a free first that you picked up. If that was the way.
And then on the other side of the coin, then you have the ability of you're a contender. You're a heavy contender. You can trade your picks at what I think is a premium, right? Like your first round pick is still a first round pick, but if that dude ends up 111, 112 more times than not, you got the better end of that deal when you traded it in the future, the first round pick. And the contender, like I think it's even more profitable though with the seconds and the thirds because dude, those late third round picks all the time they suck. And those late seconds, if you get in my opinion, a Brandon Cooks level player for a late second round pick, as a contender, that's a great move. You add a good player to your team, and the hit rate of that late second is not very high. And you can do a lot of the times get deals where it's like, I give my second for a player and a third, or I do this and a second and a player for a good player and a third, right? You get it back and shit like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, you want to break down the AFC South now?
All right, let's do it. Dude, those are honestly like some of the best trades I've made, though, is when you do, because I traded last offseason freaking Gesicki and a second for Christian Kirk and a third. And that trade helped me so much. I think I ended up losing that championship as per usual. But like that's the type of trade that like really, because Christian Kirk was in my lineup every fucking week. You know, that was a massive deal.
Now Christian Kirk's borderline a first. I mean, you could have traded him for a first during the season if you want to get rid of him, but Gesicki is worth like nothing at this point. We didn't even draft him in our thing, and he's in the 17th round.
Okay, let me get this on. Oh, shout out Jake for filling it out. What a guy.
Yeah, he was in there as I was putting the rankings. So yeah, shout out Jake. Already underrated on Davis Mills. I don't understand where Davis Mills is going, but for CJ Stroud.
I'm gonna have an underrated on CJ Stroud.
Might be an entire. I'm seeing a trend here.
So one thing is that I think that the Texans' offense is being kind of massively underrated, and the expectation is kind of for CJ Stroud to go in there and suck butt a little bit. So I think that there's a pretty decent chance that he can have like good games early on, not necessarily perfect, but he can at least put up stats. And I think that team's going to be a team which is like, listen, man, we're going to do whatever it takes to win. If that means CJ Stroud going out there and throwing the ball 50 times, fuck it, we'll do it. And that might be what happens, which would do pretty well for his stat line.
I just don't know if I would want him more than players like Tua, and I don't know who he's ranked ahead on Keep Trade Cup, but he's got to be ranked ahead of either Kyler or Deshaun, and then just other players like Kyle Pitts and the like, where I think he goes down before he goes up, because while I think he's a solid quarterback, I don't think he's one of those game-breaking quarterbacks. So
I think he's going to hold value really well right now. QB 12, like
it's a fine spot. There's just once you get beyond that top 12, maybe top 14-ish quarterbacks, there is a big drop off. So I don't really see him falling off a cliff or anything.
And I don't know. I think that he has this excuse built in. Houston has this like the worst negative connotation right now of any team in the league. Everyone, if you ask the average NFL fan to name their top 3 worst rosters in the league, I think unanimously everyone would include Houston. And I don't actually think that their offense is that level of bad. Like, it's not great, but their offensive line is like pretty decent, which is a lot more than a lot of other teams can say. Like,
fair enough. Davis Mills, I'm the only one saying overrated. I just don't think he's ever going to be a starter again. I think you look at Davis Mills and you compare him to other players that are like even struggling to break into another starting role. I just think he's worse.
Yeah, probably, but to be completely honest with you, QB47 is basically free, right? Close to
it is free. Yeah.
I do think he could potentially be a journeyman quarterback. So a dude that's gone in there and can actually kind of spin the ball a little bit. He doesn't seem to be one of those dudes that's just going to sit back and game manage the whole time. He's willing to actually take shots and whatnot. Fuck it. I think that he's QB47 too low. Too low. What about Anthony Richardson? Everyone's got an O.
He's like a first round startup.
Yeah.
I can't I'm not spending that price on a guy that I've just never, like, you're essentially saying he is going to be good. Like you're saying.
I do like Anthony Richardson a lot though.
But at that price, like it's so big, he's not far off from Lamar. And the guy's not Lamar. At least I haven't seen him be Lamar yet. And so I'm not spending that kind of price. Trevor Lawrence, we had a discussion in the Twitter group earlier. It's funny to see Jake now say overrated for Trevor Lawrence because I was the one debating with him saying I don't like picking him at quarterback 7. He's quarterback 6 apparently on keep trade cut now. And Jake was saying he did like him at quarterback 7. I guess quarterback 6 was just a little too high for Jake. But my issue with Trevor Lawrence is he's just not the game winning. And it's kind of the same with like Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow too, where it's like they're very good quarterbacks. Don't get me wrong, but they're not going to score you as many fantasy points as like those other guys unless they're just throwing a metric ton of touchdowns, which I mean, maybe Trevor Lawrence can do now with his current roster, but I'm not buying it yet.
I really like Trevor Lawrence. I kind of disagree because at the end of last year he was playing well. He's in form and he's scoring a shit ton of points.
Yeah, he was good at the end of last year, but I don't know how.
But you have to remember, dude. Trevor Lawrence is easily one of the safest assets probably right now in Dynasty. He's young. He's got a trending offense. He looked really good, and he probably still has room to improve as a passer in the league. I don't know, man. I think Trevor Lawrence should not just be a top 5 quarterback. He should be a guaranteed top 5 asset in Dynasty fantasy football.
Oh, that's I think a little.
And I think I would take him
above Joe
over
Burrow
Jalen
and
Hurts.
Justin Herbert.
I think he's in that tier, right? It's Mahomes, Allen, Herbert. Oh, fucking Lamar is in there too. Yeah, I don't know. They're all good. Trevor Lawrence is somehow the 5th one in there.
I just think he goes down before he goes up. But I think it's like I'm not against Trevor Lawrence. I'm just against him that high. Will Levis, you say underrated for Will Levis, but also underrated for Tannehill.
Yeah, I don't know. I think Tannehill's in one of these spots where it's like underrated in terms of that value for this year as a contender. In terms of holding him for like long term, no, right? And that's one of the issues I have with this segment is that we have to hold like we're almost betting a full year from now, which means any player over 35 you should probably have an O on. But if we're factoring in how good they are this year for your team, I think Tannehill's a great player to have for your team. But at the same time, I think next year Tannehill's gone or just on the outs, and then Will Levis is just going to get the bump in that offseason.
Fair enough. That is my problem though with Will Levis is just like if he goes the whole year without starting, where is he going to end up in terms of ranking? So that's kind of where I have the overrate on him because I don't think he's going to start right away.
I don't think he's going to start right away either, but dude, his price is low, right? Like he is at it's not like insanely low. Like it's not like Baker Mayfield low, but starting quarterbacks or projecting starting quarterbacks that have upside that have not shown that they suck. Does that ever equate to a price that's lower than what he's at right now?
Yeah, that's just the thing. Like, is he going to show that he doesn't suck? Like, is he going to get?
But if he doesn't play,
maybe not. That's true. That's though where I'm questioning. Like, what if he gets a Malik Willis opportunity and blows it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
what
true.
if he does get into the game and just is bad?
It just sucks ass. Like,
yeah. That's where I'm like, there is kind of a risk there if they toss him in, say Tannehill gets hurt or whatever.
See, the thing is that you're the one that convinced me with this on Will Levis, though.
Oh, yeah, I know.
You have an O on him.
I think we're in rookie drafts. I think it's fine, especially taking quarterback there because I think it's so much easier to pivot from quarterback to quarterback than just trading like random wide receiver for quarterback. I think Will Levis in like rookie drafts is fine. I think in terms of actual keep trade cut value and everything, that's where I get a little skittish on Will Levis.
Yeah, because like, what about Jordan Love?
Oh,
Jordan Love hasn't shown shit. Jordan Love kind of stunk, and this dude is like, yeah, he was a first round pick, but it's not this guy was like a top 10er. You know,
that one makes zero sense to me. There's no reason he should be quarterback 22. He's right next to Zay Flowers currently in the startup.
Like
That's great.
I think every other young quarterback that is below the Will Levis price tag, there is a clear and defined reason that you can point to of them sucking,
Mm-hmm.
and that is why they are lower than Will Levis.
Mac Jones is currently lower than Will Levis on the Bulletproof site. Mac Jones is at least a starter.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I guess Will Levis is pretty volatile right now. And I don't know, Malik Willis I haven't underrated on just because, dude, you guys have to remember this guy has talent still, and 1 year does
Oh no,
not.
you just used the Lunas word.
No, but
Talent.
dude, especially with the quarterback position, man, there have been guys in the past, now not super recently, but there have been dudes that have kind of floated around and sucked that have figured it out, right? And I think Malik Willis does have a
Yeah,
good work ethic and whatnot. I don't
I'm
think it's
just
going to
not gonna
happen
bet
this
on him.
year, but I would still have him on my roster.
Big fat O for Damian Pierce.
Yeah, same.
I'm also giving Devin Singletary one. I mean, if he didn't get the opportunity in Buffalo, I don't know why that changes in Houston. Jonathan Taylor, I agree with the U. Even Hull, I'm gonna say O. I don't really care that much either way though. ETN's the weird one to me, where it's like everyone thinks this Jaguars team is really good, but then everyone's kind of saying that ETN's overrated. I think
I
he
think
goes
ETN.
up before
I think
down.
that's a pretty fair price for ETN.
I'm gonna give him a U.
The only thing I'm scared of with ETN is his price kind of reverting towards DeAndre Swift on a little bit of panic, right? Because we did see ETN at times just have games where he just didn't get the ball a lot, and I don't really know what was going on. Maybe the coaches were just like, "Oh, we don't like the scheme this game," because I mean, there was plenty of games where he got the ball a shit ton. But I could see a world where people get a little skittish here and there about ETN. But I think RB7 at 5,200. I think it's just overall a fair price for ETN.
Mm-hmm. We all have underrated for Tank Bigsby though. I like Tank.
I just think that this mid second, like this RB40 for Tajay and Tank Bigsby, they're just two players that are worth investing in. They're worth putting the U on. Like
It looks like the YouTube is still on quarterbacks.
oh shit, sorry. Wait, what? Yep, my bad.
You're good. I just tabbed over and saw. Yeah, I co-signed about that with the mid seconds and these running backs. I think you could have a 1-2 punch with ETN and Bigsby and really not see a whole lot of production fall off. Derrick Henry, I said overrated kind of from what you were saying, where it's any player older than X, it's just going to go down. He's kind of that one guy that maybe Nick Chubb also that feels like they could break that kind of mold and just be good for a while. But I just think it's going to be hard to sell at running back 17 prices what Derrick Henry is a year from now.
Right, I'm putting the U just because once again, like if we're thinking about that value relative to what I think he gives you as a fantasy team, if I'm not getting a first round pick for Derrick Henry and this valuation is not first round pick valuation, I mean it's very close, but it's more so in that Mixon paradox where no one wants to give the first for him. Yeah, no shot I'm selling because I think that Derrick Henry still has 2 seasons left of RB1 level production.
Okay. Yeah, probably if he's still healthy and everything. Yeah. I do think it's going to be funny to see who our next like Mixon paradox guys, like who carries the torch once Joe Mixon's gone.
Saying that, you might think I would have an O on Tyjae Spears, but I think that Tyjae Spears is a really good football player. I think that he's dynamic. And this is going to be one of those scenarios where I think that Tyjae is just kind of looming around for a couple of years, but I do think he'll have the talent to eventually carry the torch. We see this all the time with relatively talented running backs, right? I think A.J. Dillon is going through that right now. Tony Pollard looks like he just finished going through that. There's plenty of other running backs from like the 2000s that are really good, like Michael Turner, and so many to point to. I think that this is what's going to happen with Tajay. I think he's got the talent to be one of those guys.
I
Dude,
just
his
think
production was fucking nuts in college.
Yeah, but I don't think he's the same kind of player as the two that you just mentioned. Well, I mean, those are diametrically opposed, AJ Dillon and Tony Pollard. But I just think Tajay Spears, talent wise, is, to use the Lunas word, just worse than AJ Dillon and Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I think that his cuts are just quick. His quickness is insane. And he profiles as a guy that can carry the rock, right? Like he was that rushing attack. And I think he checks a lot of boxes, man. Tajay Spears is a player that I like a lot.
Okay. Now moving on to the tight ends.
Yeah,
Dalton Schultz is a weird one. He was like tight end. I don't know. He was a top 5 tight end last year, if I remember correctly. Is that right?
Regardless, this is a waste lord division of tight ends not named Evan Ingram.
Agreed. I just like, you're splitting hair. He was tight end 3 2 years ago. He was tight end 12 last year. You're kind of just splitting hairs at tight end 17, like where I want Dalton Schultz. I guess I'd just be quicker to say overrated than I am underrated, but it's fine, I guess.
I think the problem I have with Dalton Schultz isn't the fact that Dalton Schultz is bad. It's the fact that I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get a second round pick for Dalton Schultz again. So if I can get one for him right now, I can go and pick up Hayden Hurst for Dalton Schultz level production, or maybe slightly below it, right? Like, but I really don't think that Dalton Schultz is one of these dudes that's going to go out here and finish in like the top 6 or 7 of tight ends. And if he does finish like tight end 7, I think it's just like glorified waste lord production. It's not like this tight end 7 where he's putting up numbers. It's like, oh yeah, he was just the top of the shits. That's how I view Dalton Schultz. I know that there are people that really like him, but the rookie QB in an offense that has a myriad of weird passing options, not at second round valuation. I'm invested in the fucking tight end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. Look, I'm not going to be the one who goes out and tells you get Dalton Schultz. I slapped the overrated on him. Jake did go with underrated though. Anyone else you want to touch on with the tight ends, or just move to receiver?
Let's move to the receivers.
Okay. John Mechie is another one that's a weird one. I know Jake would be going crazy over us saying John Mechie's overrated, but I don't know. I might say he's wide receiver 56. The problem is it's just like that vacated target situation. I just think this is a tight Texans team where they're probably going to get someone in the offseason that just destroys either him or Nico Collins' value, but I would assume one of those guys is going to be the top dog for Texans this year. Robert Woods is another interesting one at wide receiver 105.
Yeah, I think Mechie and Nico Collins, like I like them both as prospects. I think they're decent. Most of the times you have him is because you can't get the second, but once again, 2,500, that's the price where in theory they're above the second round pick. So if I can get a second round pick for either of these dudes, sayonara. I'll see you off my roster.
Yeah, that's fair. Jake having an O for Michael Pittman, I think, is, unless he's just. Mm-hmm.
I did think that Michael Pittman was overrated when we look at the Bulletproof site where he's being drafted around. But at this valuation, Michael Pittman is a good receiver. We already basically know that Michael Pittman is good. All the metrics and film guys and analytics guys alike agree that Michael Pittman's a pretty solid receiver. He might not necessarily be like insanely elite, but he's good. He should at least be worth the first. Like,
Yeah.
that's ridiculous.
All right, I'm wrapping up my players here.
You have an O on Josh Downs. Not a fan of the Downster?
I just think he's behind Michael Pittman, and you have Anthony Richardson as your quarterback, your rookie wide receiver. It's not going to be a good year for Josh Downs.
Yeah, especially when it's
I don't
Richardson,
think-
because you can kind of expect that it's going to look a little rough out there around the edges.
My comment when I don't think I was on the pod when you guys were the second draft live stream. I don't think I was on the second day, but when Josh Downs drafted, when Josh Downs was drafted to Indianapolis, my immediate reaction was he's going to be Anthony Richardson's third target behind Michael Pittman in the ground. So it's just, I just don't think Josh Downs is going to get enough passes to be viable.
Yeah, I agree, and it makes sense to put the O, but I just love Josh Downs. I have to put the U.
I liked him in college. He's solid. I think UNC players, I'd rather have Sam Howell, but
Can I just take a moment to appreciate as we go on down here to Jacksonville? I don't understand what is going on, because I expected Jacksonville to be the team that all the Reddit people were going crazy over. Like, everyone is just overhyping the shit out of how, like, I thought there was going to be a competition for how high everyone could rank the Jaguars, and that has not happened.
Well,
I think Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk should both be worth first round picks.
It's the same problem to a lesser degree, I'd say, in the terms of wide receivers. It's the Bengals, where they were getting some steady momentum in the beginning, but I think people were helmet scouting a little too much and being like, oh, this is the Bengals, like they're always bad, like they're not going to be as good as you think they are, and then boom, like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins pop, Joe Burrow pops, like they're top tier guys. It could be a similar situation, a little bit different though, because these guys are older and a little more established, that you're not going to have that same kind of pop that you would with the Bengals. But I do agree in that sense, where I think both those guys are very good, and where they're currently priced behind the likes of Terry McLaurin and Jameson Williams, who's not even going to be on the field for half the year. Different players in that regard. Jerry Jeudy. I think I'd just rather have these guys because they've shown it, they've done it, they're good. They're in a good spot, they're in a good situation. They should be a playoff team. I'm in on the Jags this year.
I mean, not only should they be a playoff team, this offense is going to be dangerous. This is a good offense.
Yeah, they have turned it around dramatically in 1 year, and it's not priced like they have. Now, to be fair, I was one of those guys though that was going, this team is so bad. Like when Balky did those signings, I guess it'd be now 2 years ago, and he spent all that cash out, like he's gonna get fired, like this team's going to be trash, like yada. But they did a good job. They did a good job turning around. I guess Urban Meyer truly was that bad for this team.
It's also a lot easier to turn it around when you have a Trevor Lawrence to lead it, like.
Well, you had Trevor Lawrence with Urban Meyer. It was just Urban Meyer was.
Oh yeah, that was a complete disaster. But yeah, the Christian Kirk signing is good. I don't know. I can understand, because I would sell Christian Kirk at a random first round pick price, but that is what he should be worth, right? That is what he should be worth.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a team that is, because on the contrary, if I'm a team that was turning it around, right, I'm coming out of my rebuild and I am looking for a player that can give me multiple seasons of like mid wide receiver 2, potentially high end wide receiver 2 production, it's fucking Christian Kirk. The dude, he like, I don't, like, this is why I'm so fucking confused, JT. How is Reddit not doing the classic Lunas takes on why Christian Kirk is like a top 15 receiver?
I'm telling you, they helmet scout. No one cares about the Jaguars, or has cared in the past about the Jaguars. Maybe that's about to change and that's about to turn, but it hasn't happened yet. They haven't been that perennial team They got bounced in the actually second round, right? Then they beat the Chargers, but the full buy-in is not there yet. They just don't have that pop, that spice. I don't know what word I'm looking for. Pizzazz. Like they don't have that yet to them, and I think this is the year that they will. Because if you go back and think about last year, right? They were kind of a meddling team. They were struggling in the beginning. It didn't really turn around until they throttled the Chargers that week. But that was also, you could say, oh, Justin Herbert was hurt for that game, blah blah blah. Like there's a lot of ways to just kind of still push the Jaguars aside. Like they had to win that last game to even make it into the playoffs. But this team, like just the way that they have turned around and everything, like they are going to be good. And this is a team that from the start of this season, I think will be in a good spot. They'll be in the driver's seat for that AFC South. They're going to have people watching them. They're going to have those home playoff games. Like it's a good spot for the Jaguars to be in.
I think that's a good point, though. That they turned it around at the end of last year. Now they're going to come into the season with the swagger, and they know they're what they're capable of and how good they can be. So. Yeah, I think that leads to all these guys being underpriced. And dude, another guy that if you're a contender, you probably should be buying is Zay Jones, because him and what's his name, Curtis Samuel, like Zay Jones, is a dude I probably should have added to my contendy little team. But like him and Curtis Samuel are the cheapest flex options. And they probably are going to score more points than the sexier flex guys that are the Rondale Moores and the Wan'Dale Robinsons and the Isaiah Hodginses and all these dudes that have upside but have proved it less than these dudes. These guys, Zay Jones and Curtis Samuel, are probably going to outscore 80% of all those dudes that are going ahead of them.
I don't know if I'd go that crazy, but Zay Jones is okay. I don't know. I'm just never a Zay Jones guy. I don't think I will be.
We're talking about Nico Collins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Boutte. I do like Rashichi.
I'm not even sure Boutte is going to make the Patriots roster.
Claypool, Michael Wilson, I like, but even him, DJ Chark, Thielen, Gallup, like all these dudes, it's like they're just like, Alec Pierce.
Yeah. I just looked at him.
And it's like, okay, cool. I understand why they're priced ahead, right? The upside. And you have all these rookie players that are going ahead of them because like, they could be insane. I understand that. But you are looking for that cheap flex option. Zay Jones is probably going to give you like 800 yards.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be a sexy 800 yards, but it's fucking fantasy points. I feel like you're getting a Juju Smith-Schuster 5 rounds later.
Yeah. I mean, Juju's a weird one, though. Where
yeah,
he could be Juju, the leading target.
Yeah, Juju does have the upside of being like a 1,100-yard kind of guy, but realistically, I think he's going to be more of like an 850-yard guy. And at the end of the season, we're going to look at his stats compared to Zay Jones and ask ourselves why we paid up 5 rounds to get the same production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if the Patriots are going to have a 1,000-yard receiver this year. Just looking at the team.
And they're probably just going to be a team that spreads the ball around a shit ton.
Yeah, I think between Juju Smith-Schuster, Devontae Parker, Tyquan Thornton, Ramondre Stevenson, Gesicki, and Hunter Henry, like Mac Jones could pass for 4,000 yards, maybe, but it's going to be split pretty evenly between those like 7 guys.
I mean, you see what happened with the Chiefs. Mahomes is winning MVPs, and they've got one viable receiver.
Kelce is the guy.
Isn't that amazing?
That is true. I'm just looking up Mac Jones' stats last year because I am curious. How many yards did he pass for last year? 3,000. But there was the Bailey Zapp weird instance. He passed for 3,800 in his rookie year. Yeah, I think Mac Jones is going to have right around 4,000 yards passing, but I don't think you're getting a 1,000-yard receiver out of the Patriots. I don't know how I ended up talking about the Patriots. There were some Titans, but we already kind of talked about the Titans at the top of the episode.
Yeah,
I did end
think
up
the
going
top
with
two
underrated.
receivers on the Titans are pretty good. Pretty good.
They're pretty good.
And yeah, Kyle Phillips, I just he's another dude, right? We talked about Okonkwo kind of being cooked, right? Like I think that kind of just means that Kyle Phillips, like there's just and it sucks because it's not like you could have really sold him. No one's buying Kyle Phillips.
Anything else you want to add though?
Nope. I'm all good.
All right. So that's season 3, episode 47. Thank you everyone for listening. We are going to have our rookie draft. Our home league rookie draft is scheduled for this weekend. So who knows? We might have some content coming out of that. If not, we'll update you guys on what we ended up doing.
Yeah, you might fuck around and stream. Who knows?
Yeah. So keep a lookout on that. At 3rd and 20 on Twitter, 3RD and 20. Is there an underscore?
Yeah, there's an underscore at the end.
Underscore at the end on Twitter. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We really appreciate it. But yeah, thank you everyone.
Peace.